Robert in Texas, what can we help you with?
Hello, guys. Great show, by the way. I just want to say awesome people. And I think it's good that we can all agree to disagree. So I, like many people, was born into like a Christian household.
Sure.
Kind of assumed everything and didn't really question much. And then I started to question a lot and become doubtful and agnostic, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had to try to look outside the Bible to try to find truth and meaning for me, which is different for a lot of people. And really what kind of got me more into theism was just the origin, so to speak. Just didn't really make sense to me how things can come from, bangs and molecules. And what I mean is just so advancement to where we have such conscious thoughts to be critical as we are in this debate stage. And I understand that even science can't really explain that. So for me, that's been the dilemma,
Yeah, I hear that.
As much as people want to see a God, which, by the way, does exclude blind people, people want to see that, or people, even I think some atheists want to know, okay, well, is there still that 1% chance? And do we want to risk it if there is?
Okay.
So I have nothing against atheism. I will say, like, for a time I have been. And again, I make no claim that I'm an expert in the field because I'm not. But I enjoy
I get it.
Both sides because
you want to understand where the universe came from and how we got here, and that's a reasonable desire.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, I'm not prepared to explain that to you. I work in the field of psychology by trade, so we can have some vague conversations about the Big Bang, about redshifting, about the heat death of the universe, and I can try to wrap my head around some of this stuff, but ultimately, I'm somebody who has to say, not only does science not really know about the origins of the universe, but also, even if it did, I'm unprepared to understand them. And I can also say that there is a natural human desire to fill in every question that we don't have an answer for with any substitute that we can find.
Yeah.
It's deeply human to want to fill in those gaps by saying, well, it must have been God. And I would really challenge you to perhaps become more comfortable with the phrase, I don't know. Dan, how does that land?
I think that lands, here's my take on this. You say that science isn't so sure, so you lean to Christianity, but that implies that Christians know the origins of the universe, and they don't, right? Like, you don't.
Well,
you
I
say...
apologize. Sorry, sir. I just meant to say I meant like science proving the origin.
Okay. Have Christians proved the origin?
Are you talking about certain, like...
I'm talking about anybody that's believing God that says God started the origins of the universe. Have they proved that?
I think one way of likely doing that would be by elimination of the other methods.
Okay.
But there's so many options that you haven't even thought of.
I'm going to give you a different example. Let's say I have a time machine and I have a computer and I bring that computer back to ancient Egyptians. Okay. And those ancient Egyptians, they look at this computer and they say, wow, we have no idea how this works. It must be God. Because if we eliminate all these other explanations, well, we tried to power it with fire and that didn't do anything. Well, we tried to power it with water and that didn't work. That turned the computer off. I think the most reasonable explanation that we can understand is that it has to be God. Would you say that's fallacious? Would you say that that might be bad reasoning?
It could be, yes.
Could be?
It could be.
Okay.
I do agree.
All right. So this is how I take it.
You can't rule out every possibility. I mean, how do you rule out that the universe wasn't created by universe farting pixies?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? We don't have all the answers to the origins of the universe, absolutely. But to fall in the God explanation is to just give up, honestly, because we don't have anything that points to a God at creating the universe. We really don't. It's just one of aliens creating it or interdimensional beings creating it. We honestly have just as much explanation for those as we do for a God.
No, and I totally agree. Like that's the great thing about the discussions and trying to find research and not only historically, but philosophically and everything else, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm just saying, like, on my own I'm just one small speck here on this dot on this planet. But I mean, like I said, I try to look at things logically and just in general. And trust me, I'm very doubtful of things.
Yeah.
But it just comes to me very hard to find something that's, I don't know. I just feel like there has to be, and I don't know. And it's not just what I'm feeling. I apologize.
Yeah.
I'm using that word.
No, I actually do want to kind of highlight that. Like, I don't mean to play gotcha, but I really want you to sit with that feeling. You feel like there ought to be some explanation. And I'll tell you what, there is. There is a beginning of the universe. There are facts around that. We just don't have access to all of them.
Yeah.
You know, just because we don't know about something doesn't mean that the something isn't there. It isn't real. But that feeling of there has to be an answer, that's human.
Right.
And it may be leading you to fill that need with some things that are kind of poor substitutes for facts.
It can be that way. Yes, I agree. And I said, thank you for listening. I just wanted to say, like, I'm just one that has that void, and I have just found it conclusively more that it's from a higher being. You know, I know a lot of times people don't like that supernatural stuff because it's kind of nonsense. And I agree, you know, like some of it is, but again, trying to do all the elimination process, I'm open to staying atheist. I am, but right now I'm looking at what we've done. You know, we were able to go to NASA in 2020, you know, in the modern age, and we can't find the beginning. So for me, I think the pursuit of search is still going to be important for everybody. And I think that's good. I think that's a good thing for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, I guess as long as you're hanging your hat on the idea that you understand it's just a feeling, then that's all I can agree with you on, is that, yeah, it is just a feeling.
Sure.
It doesn't point to anything in reality necessarily. Like, our feelings are wrong about things all the time. I don't know. Right. I don't know what to tell you. It sounds harsh. I'm really trying not to be like that guy. But it's like, look, like, I think that it honestly, by landing on that, for me, it's like, look, that just gives privilege to all these institutions that do say, oh yeah, God is real, and he is the Christian God, and he, you know, you can kind of make these other sorts of rules happen in play that I don't want to be in play, right? I don't want to give any credence to the folks who are actively trying to eliminate my existence, if anything, right?
Can I make one last quick comment?
Of course.
I'm sorry. If not, that's fine.
Go ahead.
So I'm still also skeptical of big companies and big pharma and all that. And I mean, even if you go with that being inaccurate, I mean, man is inaccurate too. Science can be inaccurate, as well as, you know, dating back years ago with observation and everything. So that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying it's just only belief. I just want to add that, I mean, there is some research I've done into it. And again, I'm not claiming I'm an expert theist because I just got into it. But I just wanted to say, like I said, thank you for having me on and give me just a chance to, you know, point that out. I know I'm in the minority, but hey.
I hear you, Robert. I hear you. Just don't fall into the fallacy of Pascal's wager, right? I heard you at the beginning of the call say, well, you know, it's safer, I'm paraphrasing here, but it's safer for me to have this belief than not. And that's kind of the crux of Pascal's wager is, well, you know, there is the threat of hellfire for eternity, so I might as well have that belief. I mean, that's one interpretation of Pascal's wager, but it is like, look, if you get this feeling and it makes you feel good about it, and so it's better to have that feeling than to not, so you can have that belief. You just have to understand that that's vicious. That doesn't get you to truth necessarily. That gets you to a fulfillment of psychological needs, and there are other ways you can fulfill those needs without having to live your life in a falsehood. Now, again, that's a very like know-it-all atheist way of saying that. I don't know any other way to say it, though, honestly.
It's totally fair. Yeah. And, you know, it does bring up all of this exception finding. If you think about, like, okay, we don't understand abiogenesis. We don't fully understand, like, the origins of the universe. But, you know, 300 years ago, basically nobody knew anything about evolution. Yeah. And we've worked out so much in that time. The notion that we, just because we haven't figured it all out yet, that it doesn't make sense or that it can't be figured out is just, it's a little bit silly. And I appreciate, Robert, that you are sitting with this discomfort, that you're asking yourself these questions. But let me just give you a little bit longer to cook on it.
Yeah, I want to emphasize, I appreciate you coming to us to call us about this, Robert. It's very good.
Hey, thanks, guys. Like I said, I'm still going to be listening, supporting you guys, and I don't mind us disagreeing. That's how we learn. And that's how we get better.
Very cool.
Thank you so much, guys.
Very cool.
Hey, thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Have a good one.